Today I'm going to talk about a concept that I've been kind of thinking about for a while now, and it started very recently, so I guess I haven't been thinking about it for a long while. And it happened after I have been contemplating a lot of things going on in my life, and then watched the Batman trilogy by Christopher Nolan. And I forgot how good those movies were. They really are great examples of a classic hero's journey. They really stand up for good old fashioned virtue and morals. But at the same time, it introduces us to an idea that I think is actually very layered and very hard to accept. I think it's easier to accept this idea of justice and, wanting to be a good guy and wanting to go out there and fight the bad guys. But you could obviously see something noble in Batman's personal conviction to not kill people in a brutal way, so not taking vengeance, right? But extracting justice instead of vengeance because they're not the same. So that's a big part of the movies. But one thing in particular that caught my attention in the first part of the first Batman movie by Christopher Nolan was his mentorship relationship with Ra's al Ghul. And so, if you haven't seen the movie in a while, Ra's al Ghul in the beginning becomes this mentor like figure for him and really does impart a lot of wisdom on him. And you could see in the beginning, it takes Christian Bale, uh, Bruce Wayne, from this guy who doesn't have anything to live for. There's nothing pushing him on in life, nothing pushing him further, nothing really for him to honestly strive for a higher goal. There's just nothing really. And unfortunately, you know, that doesn't work for human beings. We're not made to be like that. So what happens? It sends him on this downward spiral, and he ends up in a prison in a whole other country. And so this whole reason he's here is because he's on this quest for vengeance. And he meets Ra's al Ghul, who brings him to the top of the mountain and trains him and teaches him something very important, which is you cannot let your fear overpower you because ultimately it's actually not that um, powerful. Your fear is only as powerful as you let it be. So uh, his method, or I guess I should say his ideology he's trying to show Bruce Wayne is sit with your fear until it becomes so familiar to you, you no longer fear it. And it's this idea that when we actually sit down and spend time with our fear, we realize it's actually just bats in the dark. And usually things we fear are actually indicators of something deeper in us. So he wasn't actually afraid of bats per se, but it was this whole surrounding, he fell down the well when he was a kid, and that was really scary. And he had this moment with his father. Well, that's attached to his father now, and then his father was murdered and his mother right in front of him. So our fears are generally something that are much, much deeper than just, oh, I'm scared of the boogeyman, you know? And I think that's pretty obvious. But at least the first time I remember watching it, and upon the second watch and the third watch, and I don't remember which one this last time was, it really every time makes me sad. I'm like, like he was such a great guy, Ra's al Ghul. Like he was really helping Bruce Wayne, and then he has to go at the end and give him this test that ultimately conflicts with Bruce Wayne's moral standard. It's almost like Ra's al Ghul taught him so well and brought him so out of that dark pit of vengeance that um, Bruce Wayne really transcended his teacher. He outgrew him. But there's this moment where it's Bruce Wayne and Ra's al Ghul standing next to each other, and Bruce Wayne has to make this decision, and he ultimately ends up betraying his teacher in a sense. He says, "What you're saying, I can't do this. I cannot follow this path that you're putting me on." Like, kind of also echoing the whole Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala. She's like, "You're going down a path I can't follow," and I think this is a very maybe I'm reading too deeply into it, but what I immediately thought of is our own personal hero's journey. When we are on our journey, and as you're growing and you come into your 20s or maybe your 30s, or whenever you reach this bridge to cross of, you realize my whole life, if you're lucky, good people have stepped in and given me these really helpful tools, these really useful tools. Whether that's, sayings or quotes or just little words of wisdom, learning how to manage your emotions, or, whatever good people in your life have taught you. They've imparted something on you that you carry through and has gotten you to this point. But something happens and you end up hitting, like I said, this bridge where ultimately you have to either cross it with or without your mentor. Because at some point you realize everybody, even your mentor, like Ra's al Ghul, this really highly revered, respected individual who has built something, really built something, and they're asking you to do something that you just know isn't right. And there's a conflict there. And the conflict is, oh my gosh, this person that I've known, that I've trusted, that I've like taken advice from, how can they ask me to do something that is so obviously wrong? And I think Christian Bale, or Bruce Wayne's moral dilemma in that scene, and you could see it in his eyes, is this despair in a moment of, I trusted this person. I obeyed this person. I let them speak into my life. I let them develop and actually change some of my how I think about the world, and let that influence my perception of the world. And I thought all those things were right, but now they're telling me to do something that I just know is wrong. Does this now mean everything good they've ever told me is negated? And I think this is part of letting go of your mentor's path. It's very hard because you want to trust this person with everything they say, but unfortunately that bridge is realizing your mentors are human. Whether that's your parents, somebody older than you, I mean, it could be somebody younger than you, but somebody that was a mentor in your life, speaking into your life. And that's a hard bridge to cross. Understanding one day that you will have to leave the path of your mentor and follow your own. And that does not necessarily mean everything they ever told you is wrong. No, it doesn't. It means you are on your own quest and your own hero's journey. And the only thing we can do is pursue goodness and truth and beauty. And when we think, unfortunately, you brought me this far, I'm going to have to take these tools that you gave me that are good, and I'm going to have to build something different because I cannot go on your path that you're asking me to go. That's something I've been thinking about. It's probably something that I could develop on more or hear other people's opinions, but that's what I think for now. And it's helped me really feel not as scared to make my own decisions. So learn from Batman.